Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third Support to Women Entrepreneurs webinar, Making It in ESTEAM, the Journey of Female Entrepreneurs. I am your moderator for today, Sofia Chusda, and today will be all about our role models, Telma and Pauline's journeys as young female entrepreneurs. Just before we start, I'd like to give just one more minute until we're waiting for some more participants. Okay, I think we can begin. So let me reintroduce myself for those that just joined. I am Sophia. I'm your moderator for today. Thank you for being here. So I'll just go over the agenda really quickly so you understand what we're going to do today. So first we will begin with the welcome. Then we'll have a short introduction about the whole project. We will then move on to the speaker presentations, which is where Telma and Pauline will introduce themselves and tell you more about them and what they do and what their company does. Then we will have a discussion segment, which will be moderated by myself, where I'll be asking Pauline and Telma some questions, interview style. Then we will go into the Q&A section, where your questions will be answered. Then I will just sum up everything myself, and we will have some closing words by the European Commission. I would also like to mention that the housekeeping rules are available in the chat, and I would also like to highlight that this webinar is being recorded and that you are very much so encouraged to ask questions via the Q&A function, which you can find at the top next to the chat function. That's just an easier way to ask questions, which will be answered towards the end of the presentation. Yes, now I'd like to give the floor to Elka Hubenova, who is part of the project team, to introduce the Supporting Women Entrepreneurs project. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Hello, everyone. My name is Elke Hubenova. I'm a communication consultant at Hudler & Partners, and I have the great pleasure to be part of the project team supporting the European Commission with the implementation of the Supporting Women Entrepreneurs project. For those of you who are joining our webinars for the first time, I'd like to take a quick moment to explain what the project is about. At its core, the project addresses two barriers linked to female entrepreneurship in Europe, namely the lack of data on women entrepreneurs and the low number of women entrepreneur role models. We do so through a series of actions, one of which, of course, is our media campaign on role models, which this webinar also is part of, where we work with an incredible group of women, including our speakers today, who share their entrepreneurial journey with us and with the goal to inspire others to follow in their footsteps. Another core aspect of the project is the collection and analysis of data to take stock of female entrepreneurship in Europe. Those findings will soon be available in the upcoming report titled Women Entrepreneurs in Europe, Data, Barriers, and Recommendations for Support. And last but not least, we have our upcoming conference on the 5th of March ahead of Women's Day in Brussels, where we will bring together all of our role models and discuss key findings of the report together with policymakers, other entrepreneurs, girls and women, and relevant actors who are invested in paving the way for a better entrepreneurial system. So without further ado, enjoy today's webinar, and I give the floor back to Sophia.
Thank you, Elko, for the information. Now we can move on to our Mentimeter section. We will shortly display a QR code on the screen. Yes, there it is, which you can access through your phone. And there it will ask you to answer two questions. The first one being, what do you think it takes for women to succeed in ESTEAM fields? And the second one, what's one question you'd love to ask a young founder? So I would really kindly like to ask you, the audience, to engage a bit. And answer in 5 minutes, so take your time. Yes, as you can see, your answers will be displayed in a word cloud format, which we can see here. Thank you for your answers. We already have some answers coming in. Okay, so the question was, what do you think it takes for women to succeed in ESTEAM fields? And I'm already seeing some great points, like resilience. You have to be very resilient in this. Ambition, mentors. I think we're tackling that here today. And this project tackles this as well, providing mentors, providing role models that the younger generation can look up to. Networks important, female networks. Networks are such a great way to keep connected within people in the same field, to share advice, to share any opportunities. So creating really strong networks is quite important. And there are many ways to do this today, especially with the internet. It's very easy. There are even networks on LinkedIn that you can join. It's very true. Some other words that speak to me: guidance, opportunities, accessibility. I'm sure our speakers today will tackle these keywords. And then now you can answer, what's the one question you'd love to ask a young founder? Just a kind reminder that these will be asked to the founders towards the end of the webinar. We're still waiting on these questions. Anyone? There we go. Biggest challenge right now. Okay, I can see them coming in. Great. What made you start your company? How did you build your network? Oh, a super important one, an interesting one. Self-confidence, raising funds. Just a few more minutes for this. Okay, so we will definitely choose some of these and ask them towards the end. Now I believe, okay, we just had one more. We can move on to the presentation parts. So, Telma, you can begin if you're comfortable with that.
Yes, perfect. Okay, everyone. Hello, my name is Thelma, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Arctech Robotics.
So a little bit about myself. I am 24 years old. I'm from Oslo, Norway, and I am the CEO and co-founder of a robotics startup called Arctech Robotics. And on the side, I think it's really nice to have hobbies, and I do really love climbing on the side. It's a nice break from the everyday work. So I feel like my journey started during my bachelor's degree, which I got in London. And for our final major project, we were supposed to build our fictional startup from scratch. And so what I focused on was biotechnology within skincare, because that's something I'd done a project on during my first year. And I also knew that I wasn't done studying and I wanted to get another degree and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I chose to move back to Oslo and start my master's degree in entrepreneurship there. So for my postgrad, the first semester, we were set up to try and test out different ideas. So we had 4 different challenges that we were supposed to work through. And for my 4th one, we were in a group that we received a case from the industry. So it was a reverse pitch day. So the industry came in and they pitched all the problems that they were facing at the time. And then we were supposed to work on those problems and try and find a good solution for them. So that's where we handled the problem of battery fires, which is what my startup is working with today. And we used our whole master's degree to work on enhancing and building our startup from day one, really, and moving forward. So today we are working with Arctech Robotics. That's our startup. So it was really founded in university, and it came from one of my classes there. And the industry was the ones that handed our problem to us. And we were really forced from day one to think problem only and not focus on solution. Because when you know the problem well enough, the solution is going to feel obvious in the end. If you've spoken to enough people that face a problem every single day and you truly understand how they're facing it, then that's sort of how you get into it. So the problem again that we're solving is battery fires, because a lot of people, they wrongly dispose their batteries into their residual waste, and then when that ends up at waste facilities and the batteries are exposed to mechanical pressure, then they can often start fires at the waste facilities. And so a lot of the facilities today, they don't have insurance. The fires are very costly for them, and it's also extremely dangerous for the workers there. So moving on to our solution, what we're trying to create is an intelligent automation solution for the waste facilities. So we're using a multi-sensor, and then we're training up a machine learning model to be able to detect batteries and battery embedded objects, so that we can send coordinates to a robot, and then the robot will remove the batteries from the waste stream before the rest of the waste enters the facility and a lot of the processing happens. So something that was really important for us when we started and when we were still in university was to join a lot of events and competitions. So quite early on, within the first 6 months, we joined JA Europe. They have a competition called Gen E, which I think they do every single year, which was a really great opportunity for us to pitch a lot. You learn a lot about pitching when you join these competitions, which is important because you're going to use that later when you meet investors and you're trying to raise more money later on. And through that, we were able to be invited to Sicily, where we got to receive our award that we won by EIT Manufacturing. And then EIT Manufacturing actually invited us to Brussels to the European Manufacturing Conference 2 months later. And that was really cool because it was the first time we got to actually present what we were working on in front of a big room with important people that were within manufacturing. So we got to join a panel discussion there and also present our startup in front of people on the main stage. So that was truly like a pinch me moment for all of us, and something that we learned a lot from moving forward. And in June in 2025, I finished my master's degree, and then I moved on to being a full-time CEO, which was quite different because I was used to juggling being at university, being a student, student and also being a founder, but suddenly I had all this time to just focus a lot on my startup, which in the beginning, that was almost a little bit difficult for me because I was used to being super busy. But then I found that there was so many new things I got to tackle now that I was a full-time CEO. And that wasn't about having too few tasks to do. There was so much more that I could start doing now that I was working full-time. But it was also the time when we got to get more full speed into the startup, which was really, really fun. And some tips on how you can kickstart your own entrepreneurial journey is I would again go back to the problem. So really, really try and focus on the problem first. We were forced by our teachers to focus on the problem for at least 2 weeks and not even think about the solution. And then after you really feel like you understand it, if you called like maybe 200 people to try and understand their problem, then the solution will be more easy to try and understand and think of and come up with something that actually works. And then secondly, I would advise you to join an ecosystem. There are a lot of great hubs and communities and founder networks, both locally and also online that you can join. Something that I joined last year was the Sigma Squared Society, which is a founders network for young founders. And then there's also some great incubators and accelerators that you can join if you have a startup that you're just starting to work with and want to be in an environment where people can help you push that startup to grow. And then also university. I mean, I got my master's degree in entrepreneurship, and that's something that really helped me in my journey. And there's also some classes that you can take within entrepreneurship or innovation or stuff like that. And also a lot of universities have different hubs and communities that are not necessarily tied to the university itself, but students forming communities to try and push innovation. And then I would also advise you to try and build a strong team. A teacher of mine always said that you can be an A team with a B solution, but you're never gonna hit success. But if you're an A team with a B solution, then you've got the key to success. So I really, truly think that if you have a strong team with you, then that's how you can succeed, because you're gonna face a lot of difficult times, and being able to stand there together is what's really gonna strengthen you together. And then also take the opportunity to pitch at events and join competitions. That's how you get some traction and exposure, but you also learn to be comfortable on stage, because you're going to have to do that a lot to be able to receive some soft funding and also get some more traction for your startup. And then also try to apply for soft funding maybe before going for investors, because the investor market is really, really difficult, but there are some extremely great opportunities for soft funding. Also for student startups and just young founders. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Thelma, for the wonderful presentation. I'm sure we got to know you more. Now I'd like to give the floor to Pauline, the co-founder of Coating. Please, Pauline, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So I'm gonna share my screen. Sorry, it's on its way. So hi everyone. So my name is Pauline and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Coating. Coating is a system to insulate house from the outside. So it's for the building industry, and it's tackle with the problems around renovation and the need to insulate house for the winter and summer performances. So quickly, just to present you what Coating does. So it's a solution that we had patented, and we use 3 different components to integrate on one system to insulate the house from the outside. So we have developed 3 materials, which are a specific aluminum profile for our solution. We use a facet fabric for the process, and then we are using expanded granulated cork as an insulation material that comes from a very sustainable process. So how my story started? Well, in 2019, I started at university. So I started studying architecture and engineering. I really wanted to have that double degree and being able to combine architecture with an engineering background, coming from high school with a lot of math, lots of physics. I didn't want to lose all of that. And I passed my bachelor in architecture and then in engineering. And in 2022, during an internship, I met my co-founder, Robert van Santen, who is also a CEO of multiple companies, and he's a facade specialist. And during that internship, I worked on a new process with him for insulating houses. And this is how we started to develop the idea, and how he then proposed me to create a company with him and to become the CEO of the company. So in 2023, then we founded Coating. So I was 23 years old at that time. Then from 2023 to 2024, we were looking for funding, for testing, prototyping, finding partnerships. We got incubated in major incubators in France, like Station F. We did a lot of pitching, a lot of contests to be able to show what we could do. And in 2025, we started the industrialization process of our solution. We got new university partnership. We started to work in between France and Sweden to develop our solution, and we got an EU patent for the whole process. Now in 2026, we're having our first certification that is needed when you want to innovate in any fields, and also our first commercial project. So now we're able to receive money out of those 3 years of developing the solution. So I'm currently 27 years old. I finished my university just last summer, my double master in architecture and engineering, and this is now I'm a full-time CEO in my company since July. So I think one of the most important things for me was to found my associate, and who also became a mentor. He taught me a bit everything that I needed to know about the engineering of the facade. And at the same time, while continuing at university, where I had other knowledge for a global vision of architecture and engineering and having this idea, but my whole entrepreneurship came with my mentor, and this is where I got all of that knowledge. So it was pretty hard sometimes to balance from studies to entrepreneurship, going from architecture studies where you have to produce lots of documents, and then going very into engineering process for the math, finalizing both of the thesis for the two fields, and at the same time having to present and defend the startup to get some fundings and to start being able to live out of my startups after I will be finishing a university. I think the challenges and uncertainties around that I noticed around building a startup while being in university was to sometimes understand how you create actually a company, all the legal structuring, the accounting, the VAT, the meaning of really creating a company could be very quickly overwhelming, and you don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Then there's a question of hiring. How could I start to pay myself if I want to live out of working for myself in my own company? The problems of looking pretty young when you start, especially in fields that are very technical. Are people going to think that we are a very serious problem? Then HR issues when you start hiring people. The question of patents, industrialization, EU trade regulation. There is many problems that hops during was 5 years, and it's pretty hard sometimes to find solution for them, but it's extremely nice when you manage to go through it and to see how much you manage to do while still being at university, and that you pretty easily get help and support from many other people. I think a big part was by pitching and by participating in contests. We got approached by many incubators that really started to help us and finding new mentors in those places, and they helped to find a place to prototype, for instance, for us. Then I got help from many universities, in my own university, in my engineering one, and then we found a university in Sweden that really wanted to help us and to try to test the solution for the Swedish market. And then organizations that will help us to get grants, loans to develop the solution, and then participating in events and contests to promote our solution. So quickly, while being in those 3-4 years of being a student and starting a company, I think it was very interesting that I started to discover a bit of a new world and working with like international companies. For instance, the Cork is coming from Portugal, so we had to visit many manufacturers in Portugal and discuss with them and understand how the process worked. For the aluminium, we were working with a Norwegian company called Hydro, so visiting like all the different like manufacturing, discussing how to do the design, discussing how to create all of those elements is like something that you're not used to, especially in architecture and engineering, I would say, to go that deep in the manufacturing process. To understand how tests work, how do you do the fire testing, going from lab testing to reality and to prototyping elements, to develop very, very specific field that you were not used to do. It's something that is very sometimes overwhelming, but at the end you see the result and it's pretty amazing. And you also develop new skills that you were not at all trained for in your university. And this is, I think, a big picture about my last 3 years as a student and an entrepreneur in my field, and that it was very big knowledge that came out of it. Yeah, and that would be it.
Perfect, Pauline. Thank you so much for the informative presentation. Now we can move on to the interview section. And my first question to both of you is, what motivated you to launch your company while still at university? Not many go into university with the intention of starting their own business. Most people plan to work in some sort of industry, in some sort of pre-established company. Why did you want to make your own company? Feel free, Thelma. Perhaps you can start with you.
Maybe on my side, I was very afraid to not once I will finish university to go and start in an architecture firm and not get any more knowledge. And by making my own company, I managed to keep learning a lot and to keep finding new problems and to innovate in my field, especially around like sustainability, where I really wanted to find a way to use my architecture and engineering diploma and to make it together to develop a new system. So that really pushed me forward to develop a company.
I think I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to get my master's degree before I went into working. But I think getting that teaser in my bachelor's degree with trying to start something was really fun. And thinking about all the different aspects of building a company was something that intrigued me, and I thought it was really, really cool. And I thought, why not? And with doing that through university, it was a safe start to test it and see if I wanted to do it or if I just wanted to get into a normal job after my master's degree. And then you kind of get smitten by it. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I love it. So you just really wanted to expand your skills and expand your mind by doing something that's your own. Very interesting approach. And then my second question would be, how did you balance academic responsibilities with building a business? They're definitely both super time consuming. So any tips and tricks that worked for you?
Oh, I feel like in the beginning, it's I was again quite lucky that it was a part of my studies the first year. So a lot of the hand-ins that I had was related to my startup. But my second year, it was a lot more difficult. But then I had the passion of wanting to do it anyway. So I would work with architect in the evenings and on the weekends, and then do uni during the day. But it kind of just became sort of my hobby on the side. So I didn't see it as work. It was more just something I wanted to do. So I think if you have something that you love, you're not going to see it as work in the same way. Yeah.
I agree with what was said. And I think for me, unfortunately, it was not part of my study to start a company. I could not, as I already had 2 degrees to work on, I could not add a third one in entrepreneurship. But I think like communicating with my different universities and explaining what I wanted to do was also helping me a lot. And then they helped me pursue internship among the university to use their lab and facilities during the summer period or like even doing like 6 months internship to be able to work on my project while still studying there.
Okay, great. I see. So allocating time and then speaking to your universities also really helps. Good to know. So moving on to another aspect, which is navigating male-dominated fields. So both of you work in mostly male-dominated fields. So yeah, I would like to know, what has your experience been like working in these industries where women are underrepresented? Have you ever felt like you had to overcompensate to be taken seriously?
Not really. I feel like there's been at least in my industry with robotics and waste, quite different industries, but I feel like we've been taking
Yes, Telma, I don't know if you can hear us, but you're having some technical issues.
I can
Let's
maybe jump
Yes, Pauline,
in.
can you
Otherwise,
take
yeah.
over? Yes, good.
Yeah, I think in our field, like especially in the building industry, I had to start talking with manufacturer and people who are like working on building sites. And this is an extremely male-dominated field. So it was at the beginning, it could have been a bit surprising for them, especially when I was coming with my co-founder, who was in charge. Was sometimes a bit hard for them to know, but after like a few days, a few like meetings with them, it's like then it shifts and they understand what you're doing, and even though you're young, it's still you find your way around. You just have maybe to explain it a bit more sometimes, but not all the times. And it also varies from where you are, because I know that, for example, in Sweden, we never had that problem, and in Scandinavia in general, where in France, it was maybe sometimes a bit more hard, like to find that gender equality in some of the fields.
Telma, now that you're back, you can continue.
Sorry, I got thrown out somehow. But
Don't
yeah, I do think in Scandinavia it's quite nice that I haven't really felt that a difference in being a woman in a male-dominated field. Of course, I do recognize that I enter a room with only men every time, but then we are three co-founder women in my team, so we're always the three of us, which kind of, I guess, compensates a little. And I think it's fun to challenge it. I think the guys also bring a nice change into it. And now we have 5 male engineers on our team. So I feel like we balance each other nicely to have that mix now. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that's good to hear that you have managed to go around it and find your ways and balance your teams as well to compensate for any gender gaps. So through your experience, what advice would you give to young women entering these technical fields? Maybe Pauline can start?
Yeah, I think being confident about your knowledge is pretty important. To know that you can talk about your fields. You've been working on your project for a long time, so you should not be afraid to, even if it's very innovative solution, to show what it is, how it works. People are gonna always listen to you, especially if you look like passionate about what you're presenting. And then I mean, people talk about network, but with your network, you manage to find the right people also to talk to, and the people who will really listen to you. And that is a pretty important part of the work, is to like be able to talk to the people who are really interested in what you're doing and also in who you are sometimes. So but confidence is very important, I would say.
I agree. Yeah. I feel like sometimes you need to, if you don't have the confidence, then put it on to make people think that you're confident in what you're doing. And try your best to use your spare time to learn new skills in advance, so that when you do show up to meetings, you feel a bit more confident as well, because you try to get new skills that you can show to other people. Especially, yeah, being young, I think that can more sometimes be difficult as well if you're showing up to meetings with people that are like 50 plus, everyone. and to show that you have a lot of knowledge, even though you're very young, in that meeting as well. And I've also seen that sometimes we're able to think maybe a bit more differently because we haven't really been set in our ways of how to tackle certain tasks or how processes are done. So we can try to maybe challenge that a little bit, which I think can be a fresh perspective into some meetings. Yeah.
Definitely. Great. Thank you for your answers. Now I'd like to know more about your companies. And this question is for Thelma in particular. How did you identify the problem your company is solving?
Yes, so it was the industry that came to us, and we received it from a municipal waste facility and a private one. And they explained that there was a lot of problems with battery fires happening and that there was no good solution on the market today. And it's really difficult to change people's behaviors and stop them from throwing away batteries because it's something that people do either consciously or unconsciously. So it's really, straight from the source itself. And I think that's how you understand how to best solve it because they're the ones that are dealing with it.
Okay, so they came with you with a problem and then you said 2 weeks, right? Just thinking about that problem.
That was before our first pitch, yeah. And then now we spent 2 years focusing on the problem. So
Okay,
never
okay.
stop.
Great. And then my next question is for Pauline. What role does sustainability or social impact play in your business model? I feel like now it's super important to have businesses that start and already are thinking about their environmental impact. So how do you keep that in mind?
So first, the subject we were trying to answer to was the renovation problems and how to insulate houses in a sustainable way and also a cheap way, because right now it's pretty expensive to insulate it with bio-sourced material, and insulation in general, it's pretty costly for the people living in the house. So we were really trying to think, how could we propose a solution that is going to be low cost and at the same time low carbon. So we were really focused on this idea, and it's also something I was working during my studies as working in the renovation process, and how could we avoid like building new things but renovating more. So it was very important for me to, in my future, be able to work on that, and starting a company made me be able to work on it. And in terms of business model, we managed to first find good partners that are going to support us in the process. Then it was to develop all the materials, to test them, to show that it's not because it could be bio-based that it's less powerful good than non-bio-based materials. So we had to work with university to prove that the concept can work, made demonstrators and prototypes, and all of that lead to like selling our first project now, and being able to prove that our solution can answer like sustainability and social impact.
Perfect. I'm very happy to hear. Now I would like to move on to lessons learned and advice that you have. So my first question is, what mindset shifts were necessary for you to grow as a founder? Perhaps Thelma, you can start.
Yeah. Ooh, mindset shifts. I feel like it's something that happens over time. You don't maybe notice it at first, and it's slow. I think at the beginning, it's that putting on confidence if you don't have it. And as you learn to speak up in rooms and stand on stage and present, it's something that becomes more and more natural over time. I think sometimes you just have to take the leap, and it can be really scary, and you don't really know what ends up at the other side. But I think every time you learn a lot from it. And then also with the team, if you're filling together, then it's something you can look back on and be like, how can we do that differently next time? And never really take a downfall as like, oh, well, that's it then. Now we're just going to have to pack up our bags and leave. Try to sometimes not take no for an answer, and see if you can work towards your end goal anyways, or if you need to pivot. I think that's a big thing in startups. You have to pivot a lot, and even if you love something that you're working on, you're gonna have to trash part of it, and then you find new stuff. But Yeah. So maybe like being more agile in your mindset in that sense of being able to turn around if you get to a problem and figure out how to solve it really quickly. Yeah.
I think I agree with about everything, but yeah, the first you build your confidence when you start a company, that's for sure. And also, I would say it's finding a way to organize yourself is something that is becoming a bit of a new thing. Because before, when you're studying, you don't have a work balance that needs to be um, that thoughts. And once you also work while you're studying, you have to start like understanding when you need to have some breaks, when you need to work more, when you need to put something on the side. And that then keeps, once you become the CEO of your company or like you work full time on it, you still have those issues. And I think like organization of your time and organization of also the people with who you work, how much time you have to spend with them, how much time you have to spend on proper work is like becoming a bit of a new thing to work with.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your answers. Now we can move on to some questions from the audience. I'll have a look at the chat. Yes. And we can begin with the first one, which is, what's your biggest challenge right now? So now you have moved on to being full-time CEOs. Have you found something that's really being an issue, yeah, right now, currently? Maybe Thelma can begin?
Yes, right now, I feel like it's probably funding. That's a really difficult part. Speaking to investors and securing the right ones, securing good agreements and deals. There's a lot of people that, if you're lucky to get some interested investors, that are going to try to get terms that are good for them, but maybe not as good for the founder itself. So having good mentors around in that time is really important. And you also need enough money to be able to, again, give salaries to people. I think that's kind of like you get the responsibilities now that you start working full time. You actually have to ensure that people can go home and they can pay for their apartments and their food and everything. So there's that extra factor of stress. But it also makes you work harder, because when something's really at stake, then I think you have to win the fight, whatever it takes. And there's a lot of great self-funding opportunities as well. So I think juggling both of that is what we're dealing most with right now. And then our technical team is amazing with the solution on the side. And yeah, so it's running a lot of different things at once. Yeah.
I guess for us, it's about the same thing. It's especially like financing right now, and it's about securing all the clients we are talking to, and to make sure that the project we're going to build this month are going to be good enough, that there's going to be a good response to the client through out of it. And yeah, securing like the first amount of money that we can get to keep working and to really develop the company to the next level is, I guess, right now the biggest issue we have. But it's in process, so it's good. It's moving.
Okay, yes. I mean, funding for all projects or anything in general is such a huge issue. I encounter it myself also when I do projects. Yes, thankfully, especially the EU has a lot of funding opportunities, but still you'd love to, like, always have more. And the more you have, the better your company will be. I agree totally. So another audience member would like to know, how do you find matching team members? I'd also like to know, actually, from my personally, is all of your team your university peers, or how did you find them? Yeah, maybe Pauline can start this time.
Sure. Yeah. So I met my co-founder by working in his company as an intern first. So this is how we build the team. Then we work with people who could come from my co-founder network at first, because he already worked in the building industry. So he managed to bring some contacts for people who could build our process, help us in the development. Then we started hiring people and interns. It started by hiring people from my university first, and then I turned to other universities in specific field that we're trying to find answers to. And also, I think like when we're talking to multiple companies, we're really trying to find the one who understands the project and the impact we want to have. And I think that's a very important one. It's like we're not always looking for the company that has a lot of secure money. It's also the one who are ready to match our like sustainable like goal at the same time.
Yeah, I'm actually working with two of my best friends. We met at university, so we weren't really best friends back then, but that's kind of formed on the side as well. So that's definitely something that is important to tackle the right way, because you need to be able to separate business and friendship. But for us, I think it was a really good foundation, because we worked really well together and the chemistry was already really good. And so we built a lot of trust within there too. But then I think finding new team members was what was kind of difficult as well, because we wanted someone that could get into that same energy that we had, and that was really passionate about doing something. So we had a lot of interns coming in, and that was our way of kind of testing new people, and they got to test being with us as well. And it was a great mutual experience for everyone. And some of them have now stayed on for a year in the company. And we really also found a lot of people through our networks. So we looked at who was studying relevant subjects. And then we just reached out, like cold message. So a guy that I went to middle school with is now actually working on a company. And I texted him like, I hadn't seen him for 6 years, and then I reached out to him and I was like, I know that you're studying this. Would you maybe be interested in joining? And he's now one of the core members of our team. So if you know, like you can look through your network and see people there that maybe you haven't really spoken to in many years, but they can become a really great match. But then also looking at, university students was a great way for us too, and really seeing people that were passionate about solving something and not coming for the money or coming for like success or anything, but people that had true motivation to be there and build something great. Yeah.
Great to hear. Yes, I really value when my friends want to do projects, and I would love for them to work with me, because they already know my strengths and my weaknesses, right? And they know how to tackle them. So I think it's a really fun and interesting thing more people should explore. Work with your friends.
I tried to work with a friend on this project and it didn't go as planned.
It didn't?
So I think
Wow,
it
okay.
always depends how you can, but it
So
could be
true.
pretty hard sometimes, I guess.
Definitely. I think, yes. I mean, not for everyone. As we can see now here, contrasting Thelma with Pauline and myself. But yeah, very true. So moving on to another question from the audience. One audience member would like to know, how did you prepare for a pitch? The audience member said that they did a trial pitch at a founders event a few weeks ago, and I got way more nervous than I expected. How do I best prepare, and what advice would you give women for this step?
I think I can step in, because I think on my first ever pitch, it was in front of a region in France to present the project among like many people. And it was a very crowded room, which I was not ready for. And I got extremely stressed during that first one. And after that, I was so ashamed of myself, because I don't think it went very well. And people didn't really understand what I was saying. But then I was like, that's so stupid. I'm building something new. I should like, if people cannot hear me or cannot understand what I'm saying, that's not going to work. So I was like, after that one time where it was catastrophic, after that, I was like, I have to stop being shy. I have to stop like just put myself a bit more in front of the people, and not to be too afraid, because there's also a lot of things at stake, a lot of work, a lot of thinking. And so then after, like, there was new ones and new one and new one, new one. And after like, I don't know, 10 pitches, then it became something that is more and more natural and that you take a lot of pleasure of doing. And it's like, so I think it's with time and by doing more and more, you end up like very confident and comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think a first good step that we always do is that we write the pitch. So you have a script and then you learn it until you know it by heart, until you can like walk down the street and say it just randomly. Because if you have the words, then at least you can be like, okay, I won't forget anything. Like I know it by heart, truly. And then once one of the we had a guy in our team before that his dad knew this actor that also helps people present, and his tip was that try and stand as still as possible on stage, because a lot of people, they use their hands a lot. There's too much movement, and that can also sometimes come off as like you're a little bit too stressed, or maybe like if you're in front of a big crowd. So he was like, try to not move your arms at all. Confident people, they stand really still. And it felt super awkward the first few times. But then I kind of realized that sometimes it's your voice that will be kind of that even like body movement, that when you speak confidently, you speak calmly, then your message get through. So maybe try that, speaking without your hands at all, and like practicing your words and trying to be overly slow when you're speaking, because you're gonna speak a lot faster when you're actually there. So try to like speak in slow-mo, and then you're gonna probably speak normal when you're on stage.
Great. Thank you for that advice. Super important points that I've also thought about myself when pitching. Yeah, the fast talking, I can really relate to that. So I'll actually follow your advice, guys, and we'll implement it. I'm afraid we're a bit tight with time, so we will finish off with this question. Selma and Pauline will reply to your questions, and they will be sent with the recording to anyone. And please feel free, dear audience, to reach out to them and ask questions. I'm sure they'll be very happy to answer. To conclude, I would just like to provide my own reflection on what we have spoken about today. A lot of things have been said. What stood out to me the most is that you have really succeeded. Like, you've talked about, you've started during university, you've created your own company, and you managed to balance and become victorious, I guess, in your field, in your endeavors, which is super, super inspiring. And like, to be honest, me as a university student myself, right now, I cannot even imagine starting a company. But now I think I'm closer to imagining. Seeing you guys doing it has really inspired me and made me think, well, you know, Sophia, I think if you really put your mind to it, you could. You've also mentioned support systems, that you've had a lot of support from your university and things like that. I'm very happy to hear that. And I encourage others to really go out there and ask for help, ask for support, and you will get it. Speaking about that, events and competitions, you both, Pauline and Selma, you have touched up upon this, and that those things really propelled you forward. And I have to agree. I mean, I myself got this opportunity to moderate from Elka seeing me in doing another interview, right? So I have firsthand experience on, yeah, just saying that if you put yourself out there and you take opportunities and competitions, that you really get places and they really help you, because usually that's the place where all the people within the field that competition is tackling, they're all there. So there, you take it as an opportunity to show your skills, show off your idea, and you will definitely get recognized, and definitely there will be a domino effect of you getting more and more. A lot of these exist despite maybe some of the audience that you haven't encountered with them, but I really suggest that you fine-tune your algorithm. So go on LinkedIn, even go on Instagram, on any social platform, and start searching for these opportunities. So then your algorithm learns that you want these opportunities and will show you more of these opportunities that you can apply to and take. Telma, you have mentioned JA. JA is super popular here in Malta, where I'm from, but like all over Europe as well. So I really encourage all of the audience to look into them. They're great people. They provide great help to propel you forward and give you the skills and everything. But also, Pauline, I'm super happy that your company idea started from an internship. Internships are also super important, and I love that also your mentor became your co-founder and things like that. It shows that when you go out to the real world, there are people that are looking forward to becoming your mentors and will really support you through your journey. Yeah, and you've both touched upon confidence. I can especially tie this to being in male-dominated fields. If you come prepared, you show that you're confident, you show that you know your stuff, people will take you seriously. No matter their gender, no matter your gender, people will take you seriously as long as you're confident and as long as you know your stuff. Yeah, I think those are the main points I wanted to talk about. Also wanted to mention that I'm really happy that there exists a project like this that shows role models and like really highlights them and yeah, provides support for other girls like they're just like me who want to get inspired, who want to see actually that things are possible, that you can really do a lot whilst even studying, whilst at the beginning of your studies. Yes, now I would like to give the floor to Dana from the European Commission, who will say some final conclusions and remarks. Also, just to a note for the audience, keep your eye out on the chat. There will also be a follow-up message later on after Dana's closing. So Dana, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. So I don't have a lot to say because I feel like you said so nicely exactly what our intention is and our messages that are with this project. So we put this together because we realize that exactly in these areas that you talked about, we do not have enough role models. And I have to say that I put a question in the Q&A. I was very, very curious to see if Thelma and especially Pauline, because she had a male mentor, if you had any female role models, so maybe you can follow up and let us know, were there any female role models that inspired you? Because you now have become role models in our project. You're inspiring, hopefully, young and not so young girls to continue in your steps. But we also wanted to know for you, were there any women out there? Because in this project, we're looking out for this kind of women and girls who are the first in that area. I made that first step that is really brave and really hard. And what Pauline was saying, you go to those warehouses that are full of older men, and what do you do? Or sometimes I ask girls in these classes where, go to a math class or a science class, it's full of boys and you're the only girl. What do you do? So maybe we continue that later in our project to answer this question. So maybe for everybody to reflect, if you have those role models out there, please bring them forward. If each of you will continue on social media, at the conferences, at the pitching events where you go, if you continue to spread the words, maybe we'll get to have more girls to follow in your steps. And maybe in 10 years we get together and you tell me that you have the statistic and now we finally have more girls in all these technical and scientific areas. So I'll end my intervention just by wishing everybody good luck, and please think of other girls that are around you, friends, cousins, sisters, grandmothers, mothers, everybody around you. Please bring them on board because we need all these girls and women to contribute so that we can make an impact. Okay? Thank you very much for what you do and good luck.
Thank you, Dana. So true, guys. We need more role models. So let's all become role models for the future generation. And with that, I'd like to end off today's webinar. Thank you very, very much for your time, dear speakers, Thelma and Pauline, for the insightful messages and for being the wonderful woman that you are. yes, for more information, please go to the project's website. It explains everything. And I personally look forward to reading the research paper that will come out of this and the statistics. Thank you very much. And that's it for today.